So, hi everybody, I'm Shauni Sanderson, one of BookTrust Partnership Managers, and I'm here today with BookTrust Research and Impact Lead, Sophie Hedges. Together, we're really pleased to be joining you this afternoon to speak about inspiring early shared reading. So just to offer you a quick overview of what we plan to cover, we're going to be telling you a bit about BookTrust and our early years programmes that support shared reading for families across England. We'll present our research into the benefits of reading in the early years, tell you about some of our evidence-informed programmes designed to get families reading together, and share some simple things that you can incorporate into your own practice to inspire and support the families that you work with. So, about BookTrust. BookTrust is the UK's largest children's reading charity, and we have a history stretching back over 100 years. Each year, we work with over 30,000 partners to reach more than 1.4 million families with support, inspiration, and resources to get reading, particularly focusing on families from a low income or vulnerable background who may need extra help to get started on their reading journeys. Through these partnerships, we typically work with a local authority appointed coordinator, most often based in the library service, whose local expertise really helps us to reach families in what is the most effective way. Our core work focuses on the early years. So through our Book Start programs, which you may be familiar with, we provide books and resources to over 90% of newborn babies. We offer targeted support to 1 to 4-year-olds, reaching over 30% of families on lower incomes. And we work with 90% of public libraries through BookTrust Storytime. We then continue to support children into school, reaching all primary schools and around a quarter of secondary schools with our programmes and resources. And what's really at the heart of all this, BookTrust work centres partners and families. So listening to them telling us what works, alongside a strong evidence base that supports long-term behaviour change around reading. The diagram that you can see here brings together that and showing how we combine our theory of change with what we know about the benefits of reading. So nationally, we provide a consistent foundation for early years reading, and locally we work with partners to identify the most impactful pathways to engage families. Ultimately, our mission is to help families embed reading into everyday life so that all children, and especially those from low income and vulnerable backgrounds, experience the immediate and lifelong benefits of reading. You might just need to go back one, Seb. Um, and just go on again. So we've jumped to slides somewhere, sorry. I was just going to show you our early years programmes, but I can tell you a little bit about them, which are deeply embedded in every local authority or council in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. So those of you might be familiar with our Book Start programme. It's been running for over 30 years now and provides the foundational infrastructure for families to establish and maintain shared reading habits. Our early years programmes combine evidence-informed approaches that we know create real impact, but have that flexibility to adapt to local circumstances. This benefits children and families and local systems too. So we're really seeing our programmes and resources bringing all kinds of services and teams together across local areas and driving greater service integration in all kinds of innovative ways. I'm now going to hand you over to Sophie, who is going to speak to you about our research into the benefits of reading.
Thanks, Shauni. So yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about what these wide-ranging benefits are of reading for children, particularly in the early years. So at BookTrust, when we talk about shared reading, what we mean is reading or sharing stories between a child and someone else who could be a parent, a sibling, another family member, or an early years practitioner. And reading can cover a number of formats. It doesn't just have to be books. And we always emphasize that it's not about reading a book word for word or cover to cover. The important thing is that it's interactive and that both the child and the person reading with them are enjoying the experience. So we know that reading can have a lifelong positive impact on children's lives. I'm going to talk a bit here about an evidence summary on the benefits of reading that BookTrust produced in partnership with the Open University. This evidence summary drew on hundreds of academic studies to offer an in-depth look at the many ways that reading can support positive outcomes for children. And the summary found there were sort of four main themes in terms of how reading supports children. So the first of these is that reading supports children to overcome inequalities before they deepen. So we know that socioeconomic inequalities in learning outcomes are apparent even before children start school, and that gap can widen with age. But regardless of family background, shared reading in the early years is consistently associated with stronger academic performance and higher reading attainment, suggesting that early reading can really help to mitigate some of these inequalities. So for children growing up in poverty, those who are read to daily at age 5 are significantly less likely to be in poverty as adults, again, showing that this early reading can really help to close some of those gaps. And the benefits of shared reading in the early years have lasting effects throughout the school journey. So disadvantaged children who achieve highly at the end of primary school are twice as likely to have been read to at home in their early years. So the second theme that came out of the evidence summary is how important reading is for bonding and mental well-being. So while it's important for literacy and academic outcomes, it's also a really important relational activity. So when a child reads with a trusted adult, it's a lovely moment for emotional closeness, for joint attention, and for bonding. And shared reading can help to build caregiver warmth and sensitivity, which is one of the most robust predictors of positive child outcomes. Shared reading is also really helpful in establishing healthy routines and habits. So reading often forms part of a relaxing and reassuring bedtime routine, and reading together during that time promotes emotional availability and attention from the parent or carer, which helps to foster a safe and predictable environment, which is really important for healthy development. And then there is also a wealth of evidence that throughout childhood, children who read regularly, both with others and independently, have better emotional regulation, greater self-control, better interpersonal skills, and a lower risk of emotional and behavioural challenges. So there is also a significant body of evidence showing the many ways that reading can support early development milestones, including early language, and the ways in which reading supports the home learning environment and achieving a good level of development. So the early years, we know, are a really sensitive period of brain development where a lot of brain growth is going on. And shared reading supplies a multisensory kind of input that supports this development through both cognitive, physical, social, and emotional growth. So it's hitting lots of different areas of development. And neuroimaging studies that look at babies' brains while they read with an adult have shown that it activates parts of the brain that are linked to language, self-regulation, and cognitive control. And behavioural research shows that dialogic reading, in which the adult sort of asks questions, takes turns with the child, encourages the child to discuss what they're reading, all the sort of things that I'm sure you probably do instinctively when reading with a child. All of these things really strengthen children's executive function, such as working memory, cognitive flexibility, and attention. And we know that all of these things are really key components of school readiness. And research has shown that this is particularly the case for families with lower income or education levels, again demonstrating a way in which shared reading can help to close some of those socioeconomic gaps in school readiness. So finally, shared reading, particularly of fiction, is linked to gains in theory of mind and empathic understanding. as children sort of, empathize with the characters, see different roles, see different perspectives. Particularly imaginative or magical narratives encourage children to think outside the box in ways that they might not see in their everyday lives and to predict what might happen next, which really helps young readers to build mental flexibility, openness, and creative problem solving. And finally, sharing stories together helps children to practice their creative expression and imagination. They might visualize what's happening in the story, they might act out different scenes or pretend to be different characters, all of which are great for fostering that early sort of creativity. So shared reading can benefit children and families across so many different aspects of their lives, from school readiness and more academic outcomes through to those socio-emotional skills and healthy relationships. So I'm going to pass back to Shauni, who's going to talk to you a bit about how you as practitioners can support families to realise some of these benefits.
Thank you, Sophie. So from BookTrust's latest family survey, we know that whilst 90% of parents and carers report high levels of enjoyment from reading with their child, many families actually find it challenging to embed reading routines into daily life due to other pressures and priorities. So we know that around 3/4 of parents and carers want their children to spend more time with books and stories, but nearly a third are finding it hard to find that time to read with their child. And 18% of parents and carers don't find reading with their child easy. We know that access to high quality, age appropriate books can also be a barrier. And in BookTrust's latest partner survey, 83% of our partners told us that one of the challenges faced by some of the families they work with is lack of access to children's books at home. So that's where our evidence-informed early years programs come in. But I really want to emphasise that it's practitioners like yourselves who are interacting with families in the early years that are essential role models for families. Our research shows that when families are shown how they can use our book packs and programs to start sharing stories and rhymes together, it reduces uncertainty, it makes it feel easier to do, and increases the chances of them continuing to share stories and rhymes at home. So when you are working with families in your settings, there are a few simple things that you can do. You can explain that there's no wrong way to share a story. Having fun together is way more important than getting the words right. You can model sharing a book with children, encouraging closeness, pointing at the pictures, asking questions that prompt discussion around the story. You can remind families that a book doesn't need to be read from cover to cover to get the benefits, and that it doesn't matter who is sharing the stories, anyone can read with children. And finding a story in which a child recognises themselves, their lives, or their experiences can spark an interest in reading and nurture self-esteem. So you can encourage families to visit the local library or use BookTrust book lists on our website to find stories for specific needs and on topics. And finally, just to add, it's never too late to start sharing stories. So I wanted to tell you about some of the campaigning work that BookTrust are doing with Waterstone's Children's Laureate, Frank Cottrell Boyce. Through the Reading Rights campaign, we're calling on national and local leaders in early years, health, education and culture to come together to make reading a part of everyday life for every child in the first 7 years. In our Reading Rights report, we explain why this is so important and the 5 key areas we believe change will make the most difference in. So they are workforce training, policy guidance and frameworks, access to books, sharing research and evidence, and multi-agency leadership. And you can scan the QR code on these slides, or you should receive these after to read more on that. But what I'd like to do now is show you a short video from this campaign, which provides a powerful snapshot into the research on why shared reading is such a vital part of early child development and building bonds and connection with trusted adults. And just to close out, we have included here a number of BookTrust's latest research briefings, which we've touched upon today. Each of these are linked for you to exploring your own time when you receive these slides after the session, and I hope you find them to be useful resources to add to your own toolkit that you can draw upon when supporting children and families. In particular, I'd just like to highlight the final point on the slide, as today we're launching our landmark research based on a representative survey of 3,508 families and with children aged 0 to 8 across England, Wales and Northern Ireland, titled Trends, Drivers and Inequalities in UK Childhood Reading. Again, something I hope that you will enjoy reading as a follow-up to this session. But for now, thank you so much for having us along today, and I believe we'll have some time to take questions.